Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's been a little while since I put a video up. I just wanted to quickly talk today about an amp I picked up on a random ad that I found. I'd never heard of it before, but I looked it up. I found some information. All the reviews were like, get this amp. This is the best tone sounding amp you're ever going to hear in your life. And I'm thinking, okay, but I don't really need another amp. I'm really happy with my Fender Super Champ X2. I talked the guy down to a fair price for me to at least sell it and make a little bit of profit just for the effort. But it was so good, I had to tell you about it. I am gonna sell it, and the reason I'm gonna sell it is because it's too loud. Holy crap! All right, the amp is sitting behind me. I don't know if you can see it in the picture right now. We're gonna focus on that in just a second, but this is an Epiphone Valve Junior amp head. It's a 5 watt amp, only has two tubes. Um, it's like an EL84 and a 12AX7. It gets complicated with all the letters and numbers after some of the 12AXs. Anyway, so you don't, it's a Class A amp, so you don't need to worry about biasing or anything like that, because if you're going to switch the tubes, you're probably just going to be switching the power tube. A lot of people told me that I should mess around with the tubes, but I just don't have the money right now because there's another guitar I'm interested in, which is the problem with being a gear hound, is that I'm always like, I'll get an amp or a guitar, and it's my favorite amp or guitar for that day or week, and I'll play it, and then I'm like, I wonder what that guitar would look like on my wall, or what that amp would play like. Well, I think I'm pretty happy with my amp. So it, pardon me, hope I don't have COVID. I didn't mean for that to be funny, but I just came back from a trip. But anyway, um, so I wanted to talk about the amp just quickly. It's, like I said, Class A, and I've had Class A amps before, but the reason I suppose that they've never been so loud as this one is because of the simplicity. All this amp has, as I'm going to show you right now, is a, check that out. It's just a power switch and a volume knob. And on the back, which it's kind of unusual, but it's also kind of really cool, I think. There's just a 4 ohm, 8 ohm, and 16 ohm speaker, so you can pretty much use it with anything. When I showed up to test it, the guy had it hooked up to a 412, and it was a Marshall 412. So I don't know what speakers were in there, but when I hit my first note, it nearly blew me back. And I haven't played guitar on my channel. I probably will at some point, but um, basically, uh, I just had to tell you about it because if they were only made from 2005 to 2012. So if you can find one, and if you have the ear capacity, whatnot, to crank this thing up, or even, I mean, it's honestly, it just sounds beautiful on low volumes. You're not going to get the saturation, but I've got a couple pedals that help out with that. I know it's not like purest thing, I'm not an old school guitarist. I don't really like to mess with knobs, which is kind of why I was attracted to this amp. But uh, there is a video. It I it's it the dude's name is like Luscious Jackson or something like that. I don't know, but he dimes this thing on a legit Gibson Les Paul standard, and I only did it once because I really literally thought I was in a small room, and it was a 10-inch speaker, and I thought that would help it. It was a 16 ohm 10-inch speaker, but no. It was loud as hell, but it also just sounded great. Like I just wanted to play for days on it. I've got a couple X Stomp tubes with, or some, not tubes, but pedals. And one thing about those, if you're familiar with X Stomp made by Hot Tone, is that when they first were coming out, they were around $60 a piece. And then Hot Tone announced that they were going to drop them from the line. And I called them and I said, well, I just bought two of these because you have, I mean, seriously, they have like $400 pedals and there's 100, something like 150 effects, preamps, cab sims, all kinds of stuff in there, and it's just like a pedal. It's not like one of those Line 6 Helix things for $1,600. It's just a pedal, but the price is now $150, even from the sellers, not like selling used. So I don't know if there was some other announcement. They were like, well, we really like the product, so we're going to bring it back. But I contacted them. They said they're going to continually update their library. It's going to be a little bit slower, but they haven't lied to me ever since I've had them. I mean, honestly, if they just keep the amps that they have in there, or the tubes, amps, I mean, it's they got a ton of stuff in there. It's fine. I mean, I have two, and it covers, basically it covers everything. I mean, there's tube screamers, there's everything you want. There's Wampler amps. They changed the name a little bit, but when you click on it, it says the full name, what it's modeled after, and not they didn't just like copy it. They actually modeled it, kind of like a a Kemper. Anyways, so you can pick these up for around $125, $150. That might be $25 shipping because there's only a few of them out there available for sale. But I'd play it for you now. I don't think I could really. I mean, I'd have to turn it all the way up for you to really understand why this is so cool. But also, let me just, I mean, you can look at it and see it. Look at it. It's got total it just like screams vintage boutique amp. And I looked out, this one I've got is in perfect condition. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say that. There is not one mark, scratch, or anything on it at all. It's perfect. And it came with a power cord. I didn't show it in the video. But so yeah, definitely if you got the cash and you want to spend, like 150 probably. Um I highly recommend it. And one day I'll play on my channel. It's just that there's a lot of guys who get on their channel like Rob Chapman. No diss to Rob. Rob, you're doing your thing. You made a business. You made an empire, probably you could call it. But I'm just an average player. I like playing guitar. I know chords. I can jam on some blues. I can't shred, but one day I'll play. One day I'll play. I've got an acoustic Godin, which Godin's my favorite brand. I don't think I've ever talked about them, but anyhow, this is just about this Valve Junior amp here. I wanted to let you know everything that I know about it before I sell it, because I was debating keeping it. I was going back and forth between. I was like, I got my Fender Super Champ X2, and so I was just like, no pedals, just the same guitar tuned, and I was just going back and forth, like messing with the volumes, messing with this and that, and eventually it just came down to the Fender sounded incredible. I don't know if that was digital input or it made 8 years newer. But it's also a $400 amp versus, a cheaper amp, which is another reason a lot of people like these. When they first came out, they were $125, I think, but you can't find them new anymore. So keep an eye out if you want to just freaking rock out. I mean, it's like kind of like the Tiny Tower. It makes me think of the Tiny Terror when it first came out. I called it a one trick pony, like a lot of people did, and it it does have one trick, but I mean, it's an amazing amp. I wrote a thing on Facebook on it, and I said, is this amp? I think this amp sounds tube, because I got to think for tube amps. It's not that I think they're better than solid state. I just love tube amps. So this amp sounds more tube like or tubier than any other tube amp I've had, even just with the two tubes in it. I've had, like I've got a 15-watt Class A sitting in there, and I can turn that thing full volume, and my ears don't hurt. I turn this thing up half volume, and all of a sudden my entire family is closing every single door in the house. Not because I'm that bad of a player, but there's a bug on my camera. But anyhow, I just wanted to talk about it for a second. I love you guys. There's some more gear I wanted to talk about. I picked up a guitar from a pawn shop. I got a great deal on it, and initially I just wanted to see how it sounded, and it turned out uh, the the way, I mean, it felt great. So it's a little bit of an interesting story on that, and I'll try and get that video up in the next few days. Otherwise, peace. Y'all keep it real.